So picture this. Have you ever wondered what you can completely, totally, logically trust your partner? Like, you know for a fact they are faithful, reliable, they pay their taxes, but you still get this weird low hum of anxiety in your chest when they take just a little too long to text you back? Most of the standard relationship advice out there tells you to just communicate or trust the process. But what if that advice is actually missing the point entirely? Today, we're diving into the biological mystery behind why relationship anxiety can stick around long after logic has already told your brain that you're perfectly safe. Welcome to this explainer on how to build trust in a relationship, a therapist's guide. We're basing this on some incredible insights from marriage and family therapist Figs O'Sullivan. Our big goal today is to completely flip how we understand trust. We really need to stop thinking of it as just a logical decision or a personality trait or some grand cinematic romantic gesture. Instead, we're going to look at trust for what it actually is, a living, breathing biological process that happens deep down in your nervous system way before it ever reaches your conscious thoughts. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll break down the difference between cognitive and felt trust. Second, we'll look at a concept called the proof of work. Third, we'll go over 7 daily practices. Fourth, we'll explore the trust reservoir. Fifth, we'll unpack what we call the nervous system time machine. And finally, we'll talk about the long game of love. So we're going from fundamental neuroscience straight through to some highly actionable daily habits. All right, section 1. Let's talk about cognitive versus felt trust, basically knowing versus actually feeling. Grasping the difference here is an absolute game changer. On one side, we have cognitive trust. This is highly intellectual. It lives right behind your forehead and your prefrontal cortex. It's what you explicitly know. You know they pay the bills on time. You know they're a good person. It's the kind of trust you can literally write down on a pros and cons list. But then on the other side, we have felt trust. This is biological. It lives way deeper down in your limbic system and your vagus nerve. It's the physical sensation of your body actually relaxing when they walk in the room or being able to fall asleep next to them without bracing for some kind of rejection. The really wild part, you can have perfect 100% cognitive trust while having zero felt trust. Your brain is saying, hey, we're safe, but your body is screaming on high alert. Closing that gap, well, that's the actual work of a relationship. Let's think about a mango for a second. You could sit there and analyze a mango's texture, its country of origin, its exact chemical makeup for hours. That's cognitive trust. But analyzing the mango is completely different from actually biting into it and experiencing it, right? Felt trust is the taste. Analyzing trust intellectually simply doesn't compare to experiencing it in your bones. And let's be real, nobody wants a relationship that just reads like a boring nutritional label. Your relationship absolutely needs a taste. Moving right along to section 2, the proof of work, or how we build these actual experiences of safety. So if felt trust is the taste, how do we actually earn it? Well, we're going to borrow a concept from cryptocurrency. I know, crypto, right? But stick with me. In crypto, there's this thing called proof of work, where a computer has to perform real, verifiable computational labor to validate a transaction. You can't fake it and you can't shortcut it. The system only trusts what is proven through actual verifiable effort. Your partner's nervous system operates the exact same way. It requires consistent, repeated, small experiences of safety to update its internal threat assessment. Honestly, the nervous system couldn't care less about your good intentions, and it definitely doesn't care about your sweeping, dramatic verbal declarations. It only trusts a verified track record. And we build this track record through tiny micro moments. The renowned relationship researcher, John Gottman, calls these sliding door moments. A trust deposit happens when your partner sighs and you actually notice. You put your phone down, you make eye contact, and you just listen to them vent. That signals their nervous system, hey, I am here for you. A withdrawal, on the other hand, is when they sigh and you just keep scrolling Instagram and look, we are all guilty of this. You jump into problem solving mode way too fast. That just tells their nervous system that their feelings are a nuisance that need to be fixed. Trust isn't built at a fancy anniversary dinner. It's built on a random Wednesday afternoon when you choose to make a deposit instead of a withdrawal. So, how do we do this every day? Let's jump into section 3, 7 daily practices for building that felt trust. To move from biological theory into a real world toolkit, therapists have outlined these 7 daily practices based on 16 years of clinical work. And honestly, they are pretty unglamorous. Turning toward being predictable, naming your internal state, repairing quickly, following through, being curious, and letting yourself be seen. The main thing you should take away from this list is that literally none of these are dramatic movie moments, but every single one of them acts directly like a soothing balm to the nervous system, completely bypassing the rational intellect. Let's isolate that very first practice, turning towards your partner. Just look at this statistic, 86%. This is a massive revelation from Gottman's research. It turns out that couples who stay together turn toward each other's bids for connection 86% of the time. What about couples who end up divorcing? They turn toward each other only 33% of the time. When your partner reaches out and you ignore them, even if it's just because you're distracted by an email, their nervous system registers that as absence. It's a huge takeaway. The difference between lasting love and divorce isn't the absence of fighting, it's the presence of responsiveness. Now let's jump down to practice number 3, naming your internal state. Why does saying a sentence like this actually build more trust than saying I love you 100 times? Because the human nervous system absolutely hates ambiguity. When your partner can't read your mood, their nervous system automatically fills in the blanks with their absolute worst fears. Your quietness suddenly becomes their rejection. By simply narrating what's happening inside you, you completely remove the guesswork. You take responsibility for your own state and you tell your partner, hey, I'm letting you in. Then there's practice 4, repairing quickly and specifically. There is this huge misconception out there that trust means never, ever hurting your partner. Actually, scratch that. It's totally impossible. Instead, trust is built through a very specific cycle. First, you have a rupture, which is simply a moment of disconnection. Then, a specific repair where you take actual clear ownership of what you did wrong. And finally, earn security, where you both see that the bond holds. Every single time you successfully navigate a rupture and repair, you're literally writing a new line of code in your partner's nervous system that says, this person comes back. This person cares about my pain, even when they were the one who caused it. All right. Section 4, the trust reservoir. This is how relationships survive the really hard times. To understand how couples survive life's inevitable disasters, I want you to think of trust as a giant reservoir. Every single micro moment of responsiveness, every time you follow through, every time you do a specific repair, that is a drop of water flowing into the reservoir. When that reservoir is completely full, your relationship can easily survive a drought, like a sudden job loss, having a new baby, or a health crisis. But an empty reservoir, it breaks under stress. If you've just been coasting, every new little stressor feels like it might shatter the whole relationship. The really profound takeaway here is that you have to dig the well before you're thirsty. You must build trust during the calm, boring seasons when the sky is clear and you don't urgently need it. Next up, section 5, we call this the nervous system time machine, or when the past crashes into the present. Okay, so you might be wondering what happens when you are doing everything right, making all the deposits, but your partner still feels completely unsafe. The culprit here is what we call the nervous system's time machine. When we get triggered, our nervous system rarely stays in the present moment. Instead, it time travels right back to original childhood wounds. If your partner has a wildly disproportionate, extremely angry reaction to you being, say, 15 minutes late, it's not actually about those 15 minutes. It's about the 7-year-old kid who waited by the window for someone who never showed up. Real deep repair happens when you recognize that this reaction isn't personal. It happens when you hold space for a pain you didn't even cause, signaling with your actions, I know this is old stuff and I'm here anyway. Which brings us to our final section, section 6, the long game of love and consistent proof of work. So, what does deep, lasting, felt trust actually look like over the long haul? First off, we have to completely dismantle the myth that true trust means having zero boundaries. Obviously, walls keep everyone out, but having zero boundaries just lets everyone in. Neither of those actually builds trust. What you want is a drawbridge. A drawbridge gives you boundaries with connection. It gives you the flexible capacity to open and close based on what's actually happening in the moment. Trust is what allows you to confidently say, hey, I need some space tonight, without fearing that your partner's going to immediately interpret it as a rejection or an abandonment. Ultimately, all of this proof of work, all the deposits, the repairs, the drawbridge, builds what therapists call sound love. This is a completely stable emotional climate, and it's co created by consistently engaging in the natural rhythm of disconnection and return over time. You lose connection, you catch it, you come back. You lose it again, you come back again. You literally cannot logic your way into this kind of intimacy. You have to do the work. You have to taste the mango. You have to show up on the boring, hard, frustrating days because your partner's nervous system is always watching and it is always learning, which leaves us with this final kind of provocative thought. Are you willing to show up for the boring, mundane consistency that makes your partner's nervous system finally exhale? Building true felt trust isn't about some dramatic airport reunion in the rain or a tearful midnight conversation. It's about remembering to just put your phone face down on a random Tuesday when they are talking to you about their day. That unglamorous daily consistency, it turns out that is actually the most romantic thing of all. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. And I really hope this empowers you to start making those small nervous system deposits right. If you want to work on this for real, try Figlet, my AI relationship coaching app. You can start for free, no credit card needed, at figlet.empathy.com.